Hello and welcome to the Salamanca City Central School District Annual Budget Presentation for the 2020-2021 school year. The annual Warrior Vision student video production of the 2020-2021 school budget has obviously been impacted, like so many other elements of our lives, by the COVID-19 virus. Fortunately, the Salamanca City Central School District began to develop our fiscal plan and school budget as far back as October of 2019. Because of this, our forward thinking and planning has permitted the district to be prepared to deal with the current pandemic and our eventual return to more typical school operations, instruction, sports, extracurricular activities, and meet our required staffing needs in a post-COVID educational environment without impacting our school budget. Our school budget presentation will include three separate components. First, an overview of our instructional and program needs, accomplishments, and priorities will be facilitated by Dr. Beeler, our Assistant Superintendent for Academic Services. Then, we will have an overview of the propositions contained in the election materials and walk the community through absentee ballot processes to participate in the school budget election and votes. This will be facilitated by Mr. Bridenstine, the superintendent. And finally, there will be an overview of the 2020-2021 spending plan, including the New York State required elements of the budget, including program, administrative, and capital costs. This will be facilitated by Mrs. Magera, Assistant Superintendent for Finance. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Beeler, Assistant Superintendent for Academic Services.
Thank you, Mr. Bridenstine. I'd like to take a couple moments to simply review where we are right now relative to curriculum and instruction, and I'm going to add safety into our planning so that we have an idea of the programs that we are offering, as well as the successes that we have seen over the past several years. Mr. Siebert will be announcing shortly our high school graduation rate, but I am pleased to let you know that we are announcing the highest graduation rate in the past 10 years, and we've only gone back 10 years to look. So we are very pleased with this, but Mr. Siebert will be announcing that number very shortly. Additionally, the Advanced Regents Diploma rate is the highest that it has been in the past 10 years. Our enrollment is also up, which we believe reflects confidence in the schools and our increased program offerings that we have. Additionally, we currently offer 17 college and 7 advanced placement courses. We are focused on STEAM as a district and as a career pathway, and we have that in our grades pre-K through 12. We have a robust extended day enrichment program where we offer additional learning opportunities and tutoring to our students in grades K through 12. We also have a very robust community education program for our adult learners in the Salamanca community. Our commitments moving to next year as well as beyond. We are going to continue our focus on career and college preparedness. We're going to improve our interventions for students who are below grade level or are struggling. We plan to update our assessment plan and implement more efficient and effective assessments. We also plan to implement more effective social and emotional learning systems, which will assist us in improving our school climate. We will continue our tutoring and enrichment for all students, and additionally, we have a comprehensive overhaul and improvement to the security and safety across the district. One thing that's important to note is that these are new improvements to the programs that we already have in place. We do not intend to cut any of our programs moving forward into the 2021 school year. So specifically, when we talk about improvements to safety and security, we have enhanced systems throughout the entire district, including cameras and access points, Additionally, we have personnel who will be focused on the security of our buildings and the security and safety of our students and staff. We have over $146,000 specifically marked for students' books. That's literature for students to not only use as textbooks, but also for reading. We have new programs for social emotional learning and anti-bullying. We have new and additional instruments for our music program. We have upgrades to our student and staff computer devices and software enhancements. We will be increasing our before-school childcare options, and we will be transitioning to NWEA assessments so that we can more efficiently and effectively monitor student progress.
Thank you, Dr. Beeler. As always, in the Warrior Way, much is happening in our academic domains to improve the lives of our students and our community. This year, the school district budget vote includes 3 considerations for our voters to ponder. The first is the election of 1 Board of Education member for a 5-year Board of Education term from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2025. This seat is currently held by Kerry J. John, and he is again running for election and is running unopposed. Number 2, the district residents will have the opportunity to cast their vote for the 2021 school district budget spending plan. The spending plan for the school year is $43,537,292. In Mrs. Magara's portion of this presentation, she will outline these expenditures. And finally, a proposition is on the ballot for the district with community support to acquire 3 additional parcels of property for future development. Let me explain. The 3 properties looking to be purchased include 1 property at 70 Fern Avenue. This property is adjacent to the high school athletic fields and is contiguous to a number of other properties currently owned and recently purchased by the school district. This property at 70 Fern Avenue with voter approval will be developed at a later date with a future voter approval required by the community. The 2 parcels of property on Front Avenue include a portion of 413 Fern Avenue. This parcel and the portion of the parcel is approximately 154 feet wide by 200 feet deep. This property runs from the back of the property forward to Front Avenue and is adjacent to Vets Park. The second parcel of land on Front Avenue is a parcel of land approximately 90 feet by 550 feet deep. This also is adjacent to Vets Park and is contiguous to 413 Front Avenue. The vacant parcel of land is owned by the Seneca Nation, and recently the Seneca Nation has approved a long-term 40-year lease through the Seneca Nation. Both of the Front Avenue properties will be used for future site development at Vets Park, including additional parking and green space to enhance the amenities at Vets Park. As you can see from the map above, this is an aerial view of 70 Fern Avenue. The 3 properties immediately touching this property are owned by the school district, and this property would be used for future site development for athletic or buildings and ground storage on the main campus. As a reminder, the community approved last year a substantial improvement to the athletic field and the track, as well as a scoreboard, seating, press box, and lighting at this portion of the high school. Purchasing of this property will allow the district to have future options to accommodate the growing crowds at the park and at the high school main field. Looking at an aerial view of the Front Avenue proposed properties, the area outlined in blue is the lease with the Seneca Nation for the currently vacant land. And the second parcel, highlighted in a rainbow highlighter, includes the back portion of the 413 Front Avenue property. Again, these will be used for future development of the park. The property acquisitions will be purchased and/or leased with voter approval. The 70 Fern Avenue properties and the Front Avenue properties, respectively, are listed at $79,999, $50,000, and $913.51 for a 44-year lease, respectively. It's important to note that there will be no impact to the tax levy for the purchases of these properties. Moving on to the school budget vote, this year it is entirely by absentee ballot by executive order. By now, all district residents and voters should have already received your mail-in, self-addressed stamped election ballot. If you have not yet received your ballot, please call Mrs. Cook at 945-2400 extension 4025 or send an email to the address listed on the screen. Absentee ballots must, again I repeat, must be received by the district clerk by 5 p.m. on June 9th to be counted in the election results. To vote in this year's election, one must be a district resident and a qualified voter. A qualified voter must be a United States citizen, at least 18 years of age on or before June 9th, 2020. You must also be a district resident for 30 days immediately preceding the date of the election, with your current address either correctly filed at the Cattaraugus County Board of Elections in Little Valley or documented on the Seneca Nation Tribal Roll or properly registered through the district's personal registration, which was held on May 18, 2020. Additionally, Native Americans who are properly registered and residing on the Allegheny Reservation in the Steenberg or Cold Spring area for a period of 30 days preceding the election, which is outside such boundaries of the city school district, are also eligible to vote in this school district's election for this year. Please remember, absentee ballots must be received by the district clerk, Janet Cook, by 5 p.m. on June 9th to be counted. Thank you for your support and your consideration, and as always, go Warriors. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Karen McGarrett, Assistant Superintendent for Finance, who will provide an in-depth detail of the overall budget and spending plan for the 2020-2021 school year. Mrs. McGarrett, take it away.
Good evening and welcome to the Salamanca City Central School District 2021 budget hearing. Since we are under COVID restrictions, we are obviously holding our budget hearing via Zoom. As I have actually recorded this presentation, please feel free to enter your questions into the chat function and I will try to get to them as the hearing presentation runs. I will also pause at the end to answer any questions from the chat box as well. So here we go. Again, welcome and enter your questions in the chat box. So how did we get here? We started out by looking at the district goals, and from that we related each one of those into our budget development goals. As far as health and wellness, we'll continue to contract with telemed and provide supports for our students' mental and physical health needs. District engagement, once we're released from all of our COVID restrictions, we hope to have our welcome back picnics and our athletic events and music and arts events and math and literacy nights and all those other good fun things that we usually do. Professional development, Director Penny Beatty has provided us with a fantastic professional development catalog, and the administrators have plans for some great training during our professional development days. Student achievement and learning will continue to implement new and relevant instructional programming that supports all of our students and keeping our class sizes low. We'll expand upon our after-school programs for our students as well. And lastly, but not least, of course, is fiscal management. I can assure you that our spending plan is fiscally sound and prudent, and with the 2% tax cap our district calculates out using the state provided formula, that we could actually have increased our taxes to about 45%. But we are keeping our tax levy flat and will only assess a $250,000 tax levy once again this year. As far as personnel changes, we have 2 retirements this year, one effective on June 30th, the other effective in mid-October. We will replace both elementary teachers, and our new positions are an assistant director for pupil personnel services our chief equity officer, a speech pathologist, and as usual, we need bus drivers and monitors. Taking a look at the tax levy, you can see how it increased up to $3.4 million is our high, down to 2.4, down to 1.1, and we're down at $250,000 again for the third year. Taking a look at our revenues. This year, state aid is about 55% of our income. Impact aid is 18% of our income. The Native American contracts for transportation and tuition is 16%. Our use of reserves for unemployment, workers' compensation, our technology commitment fund, our employees' retirement fund, and our use of unreserved totals about 9% of our budget. And we have this little gray piece in here that's other, about $550,000 or 1% of our budget. And that includes Medicaid reimbursements and BOCES reimbursements, tuition payments for summer programming if we have it, or after school programming for adult ed, etc., things like that. And then lastly, $250,551 for tax related. It says 1%, but if it was not rounded, it would be 0.51% for our tax revenues. As far as state aid is concerned, our basic formula, or is otherwise known as foundation aid, is $15.4 million. New York State is making this pandemic adjustment of a minus $533,420, but the Federal CARES Act equates to that same amount, so we end up being even at this point. BOCES aid, $2.7 million. Public and private excess cost aids, about $930,000. Transportation aid, $1.1 million. Building aid at just under 3.7. Hardware, technology, software, textbooks, and library, these combined are about $130,000. And all of this is from state aid. Now, if state aid were to be reduced, we would not have to increase our taxes. We would just increase our use of unreserved funds. As far as our tax-related revenues, again, $250,000 levy. Other payments in lieu of taxes, or our pilot, is about $200. Our interest and penalty on taxes, we're guesstimating at $351. Impact aid, operating 7.5, and the specific impact aid for students with disabilities of $159,000. As I spoke earlier, use of reserves, our fund balance right now is 3.19 is that we're using. Our ERS, or our Employees Retirement System reserve, we're going to use $237,000. Unemployment, $25,000. Fund balance for Technology Commitment Fund is $363,000. And our Workers' Compensation Reserve, we're going to use $28,000. Next up, this is all the miscellaneous stuff, as you can see here. The largest pieces are our Medicaid reimbursement and our prior year expenditures from BOCES. And the reason that is that BOCES is a nonprofit and is not able to obtain any profits or have a fund balance. So at the end of their year, after they're closed out, any excess money is returned back to the individual districts. As you can see, we also have interest in here and indirect costs from federal programs and E-rate, interest and earning from dividends, and our rental property from BOCES, and tuition, driver's ed, little things like that make up our miscellaneous revenues. And lastly, but again, not least, is our Native American contract for tuition and transportation, and that totals out about $7.1 million. So, taking a look at our expenditures. New York State requires us to present the budget in three parts. Administrative, those costs that support all district functions. Capital, costs that provide for the health and safety of our facilities, equipment. And finally, the most important, program, where those costs that enable us to educate and provide each student with wonderful experiences and opportunities to allow them to learn and to grow to reach their potential. While New York State requires a three-part budget, I think this is more important and more helpful for individuals. So if you take a look at this, salaries at 43% and fringes at 17%. So about 60% of our budget is nothing but people. paying for their salaries and all the benefits that are associated with working for the school district. Second piece is contractual. Here at about 5% of our budget. Thirdly is materials and supplies are about 3%. BOCES is 13%. And right now our BOCES aid is at 0.887. So for every dollar that we spend on BOCES that's eligible for aid, we'll get back 88.7 cents. Capital, 17%. Operations, 1%. And textbooks, tuitions is also 1%. So overall, that's a different way to take a look at the budget. But going back to the New York State required three-part budget, program, 68%. So just under $30 million is our program. Then followed up by capital, 21% and just over $9 million. And administrative, 11% of our budget, or $4.677 million. To take a little closer look at each one of those pieces, here we have the administrative costs at $4.6 million, or about 11%. As you can see, it's the Board of Education, the district clerk, district meetings, superintendent's office, the business office, audit, treasurer's office, tax collector costs, fiscal agent fees, legal, personnel, or human resources, public information, central print and data, undistributed are things like insurance and things that basically take up every part of the administration, curriculum costs and supervision costs, and then benefits that apply to any of the individuals who are employed under this category. Next, we have program. This, of course, is our largest piece, 68%. This is all the instructional staff and anybody who does basically hands-on with students. Our legal costs, safety and security, that's not only our SROs, but our safety coordinator and personnel under safety. Undistributed, same as with administration, that's costs across the district, supervision, in service and teaching, students with disability, occupational education, or our BOCES costs for those that attend a BOCES for their programming. Special schools includes our Warrior Academy, as well as some after-school programming. Our libraries, our computer assisted, or all of our technology. Attendance folks, our guidance folks, our health offices for our nurses, our psychologists and social workers, our family support workers, extracurricular activities, all that fun stuff like drama club and SYC and SYD, all that fun after school stuff, all of our athletics, our transportation, and our bus garage, and all the benefits associated with all the folks that work under the programming aspect of our three-part budget, for a grand total of just under $30 million. Next up, we have the capital piece, a little bit of capital advisory for the business office, operations and maintenance, that's all our facilities and grounds costs. Undistributed, again, their portion. Transportation is purchase of school buses and equipment. Benefits associated with any of the folks that work underneath this. Debt service is our principal and interest due on our outstanding bonds. Capital aid of $45,000 and transfer to capital of $1.6 million for a grand total of $9 million, or about 21% of our budget. Next up, transfer to capital. So as with last year, we are including a transfer to capital in the amount of $1.6 million. So the notice of intent to transfer to capital, $1.6 million of capital improvements work to be undertaken using available district funds without borrowing. Therefore, we have this cash on hand and we'll utilize it according to this resolution. The district's 2021 proposed budget includes the transfer of available unallocated district funds to the district's capital fund in order to finance several necessary capital improvements at certain district facilities, primarily at Veterans Memorial Park, including some work that could not be accommodated under the construction budgets for other approved capital projects in the district. pursuant to a project plan that has been prepared by the district's architects and is available for public inspection in the district offices. These capital improvements are currently anticipated to include, without limitation, the completion of certain work associated with the Veterans Memorial Park Development Project, including but not limited to electrical, mechanical, lighting, infrastructure, and paving work. The aggregate cost of such work will include the purchase of original furnishings, equipment, machinery, and apparatus required in connection with the purposes for which the site is to be used, and all ancillary or related work required connection therein. Upon the approval of the budget by the district's voters, the Board of Education, aka the board, will be authorized to expend for such work, including for preliminary costs and costs incidental thereto, an amount not to exceed the maximum estimate cost of $1.6 million, provided that the detailed cost of the components of the work, as generally described in the project plan, may be reallocated among such components, or such components may be deleted, revised, or supplemented if 1. The board shall determine that such reallocation, deletion, revision, or supplementation is in the best interest of the district, and 2. The aggregate amount to be expended for the work shall not exceed the $1.6 million total authorized amount under the district's approved budget. And next we'll discuss the contingent budget. If the budget were to be voted down, we would go to a contingent budget. As right now there are no guidance issued, there has been no guidance issued on what happens if your budget is voted down. We would have to automatically go to a contingent budget, which means that district buildings, including all athletic fields, would not be usable for community use unless all costs were fully covered. There'd be no free usage permitted at all. Bus purchases and all equipment purchases would be eliminated. Non-union, non-certified personnel salaries would be frozen, and transfers to capital would also be removed. So please remember to vote. Send in your ballot for the budget vote, election of your board member, and purchase of the property. The ballots must be received by June 9th at 5 p.m. They both have to be dated and signed in order to be valid.